high-level overview of all of that, and then you can come to additional sessions, especially if you have additional questions where we can go deeper into those. We have the chat open, so please feel free to add your questions in there as I go through the presentation. I will do my best to stop periodically to answer them, but we will also have time to pause and go over those questions as well. And so without further ado, I will get started. This session will also be recorded, so you'll be able to listen afterwards or share with other colleagues at your organization too. So again, today we are going to be doing a program overview, really focusing on some of the key changes in the newest version of the program manual. And then we're also going to focus today on the process for submitting an application on behalf of an applicant as a participating contractor. So we're going to go over again as a participating contractor what your role here is with the appliance upgrade program, when these program rules will be in effect. So we'll go over those dates and based on the status of your projects. We will also go over the new workflow of going through a project. There are some changes specifically to the installation coupons, electrical upgrade projects, new requirements needed for quality installation documentation. At that point, that's when we'll take a little bit of a break, answer any questions that have been missed throughout the chat, and then we'll go into the process for submitting applications through MyEnergy. And then at the end, again, we'll have some questions, time to answer questions. So as a participating contractor, whether you are new to the program or are a little bit more seasoned and have already completed some projects, you all play a critical role in helping us implement the appliance upgrade program and helping New York State applicants transition to more energy efficient equipment. And so as a participating contractor, what your responsibility is to make sure that you have the most up-to-date and active licenses, depending on where you are performing your work and whatever is required in the municipalities that you cover. In addition to that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes here, but overall, it is your responsibility to verify the necessary scope of work that is needed to install eligible program appliances. And so what's going to change here, and what I'll talk a little bit more in some of the upcoming slides, is the process change for that. But once your applicant and customer receives their installation coupon, then at that point you will be claiming the coupon and responsible for doing a quality installation. So we are expecting you to adhere to the municipal code requirements from wherever you're doing work. And that includes obtaining permits that are required. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well in this presentation. And then just following all of our program requirements, and as well as following, general consumer protection and quality assurance requirements. Once you've done the work, you're going to be responsible for applying these rebates and deducting them from the total invoice amount. And then through the MyEnergy portal, responsible for submitting accurate quality installation documentation. So the appliance upgrade program was originally launched back in October of 2024. So we'll be approaching almost 2 years of this program, and there have been changes along the way, mostly just to make the program run more smoothly and to make sure we provide a good experience to our customers in New York State. So we have released our newest version of the program manual 3.0. You should have received an email on July 27th. If you haven't, feel free to reach out to us to ensure that you have the newest version of the program manual. So based on if you have existing projects right now, depending on what status they are in and what stage of the process they're in, that will determine when these program rules will be effective. So if you are submitting any new applications, these new program rules are effective immediately. If you have any approved installation coupons and have not done any work yet, then again, these new program rules are effective immediately. If you've already completed a project and have already uploaded quality installation documentation, then we will be following the previous version of the program manual because we are not expecting you to go back to any projects you have completed and to get any additional photos or any other documentation that might be required. But everything else will still be in effect, such as, following whatever municipality code requirements that exist, that is still required, but any of the documentation required for quality install, we're not expecting you to go back. So if you've already submitted your documentation and the project is complete, you will not have to go back. But for any new projects, all of these rules will be effective immediately. So now I'm going to dive into what of the changes are in the new program manual. So we're going to talk a little bit about the workflow for the applicant and once they become a customer. So once their application is submitted, regardless if they apply on their own or if you're helping them with that process, once their application is approved, then the customer is responsible for reaching out to a participating contractor like yourself. And so what's different is, you will notice in the yellow text, is you will have to conduct a consultation first and provide a recommended scope of work based on the program requirements and what is necessary to install the eligible program appliance. And so at that point, that is then when the customer will reach back out to NYSERDA for an installation coupon if any work is required for the appliance. So that is what is different because previously the installation coupons were automatically approved once the project was approved. So now that process is a little bit different. So once the customer then is approved for their installation coupon and receives it, then that's when you as a participating contractor is able to claim the coupon. You can determine what available rebates are available for the customer. And once you are in agreement with them, then you will proceed and install the appliance and do any eligible electrical work. Once you're done with that, you will upload your quality installation documentation. NYSERDA will review that. And once your documents are approved, then NYSERDA will issue the payment for the installation coupons and any additional incentives you are eligible for. So again, I'm going to go into detail for some of the new changes in the program manual. So right now we're going to focus on the installation coupons. So again, I mentioned this briefly through the workflow, but again, the installation coupon will only be provided upon request. So again, once you do that consultation with the customer and they have presented that information to us, then they will receive their coupon. So regardless of if the customer submitted the application on their own or if you help them apply on their behalf, they still have to go through that consultation and submit everything to NYSERDA. And once approved, they will receive their coupon. There are also some changes to the expiration dates. So previously, the customer had roughly 45 days to work with a participating contractor, and then installation coupons were extended on a case-by-case basis. So Pretty much all that stays the same. The only thing that different is that when the coupons are extended, it's only by a maximum of 60 days. And again, that's just to ensure that the customer gets all the necessary work they need to install their appliance, and can use it as soon as they possibly can. So that is the major difference here with the installation coupons regarding expiration dates. Now, these will go into effect pretty much immediately. So if you already have a coupon, an installation coupon that exists, whatever date is assigned to that is still in effect. It's nothing's going to be refreshed, but once that coupon expires, then you will follow the new timeline, which is you'll have a maximum of 60 days to complete the work. And so in that instance, if you already completed, if you have an expired installation coupon, you should be able to continue and submit your quality installation documentation. But if it's not been completed, you will need to request for the installation coupon to be extended. We recommend that you join session number 2, which will be Wednesday, August 12th at 1 p.m. And so there we will go also into more detail about the coupon requirements and also the process for claiming the coupon in MyEnergy as well. So if you need a refresher on how to do that, we highly encourage you to attend that session. So now we're going to go over into some of the changes for electrical upgrade projects. So specifically for electrical wiring upgrades, right now, pretty much the same is eligible. So electrical wiring is eligible at the applicant project address if the customer doesn't have an existing circuit in their panel for the new program appliance, or if they don't have the appropriate receptacle for the program appliance. Something that is new is that now if the existing panel is non-operational or violates any national electric codes, then you can also proceed with electrical wiring. In addition, this has not changed. So again, you're able to use electrical wiring for the replacement or for the installation of circuit and breakers in a panel. And something that is new is that the electrical wiring can include the installation of a new panel box. Again, not to be confused with a new panel upgrade, which is increasing the total ampage of the electrical panel. This is mostly any outside work for the panel itself. Now, in regards to electrical panel upgrades, this is not new, but we want to make sure that this is clear because I know that there has been some confusion with some of our partners, our participating contractors. So the only time an electric panel is eligible for an upgrade is if the existing panel cannot support the new load from the program appliance. So this would include increasing the ampage of the panel upgrade or the electrical panel itself. Now, something that is new is that if the qualified project costs of the electrical panel itself exceed the rebate amount that the customer is eligible for, then you can actually tap into the electrical wiring rebate as well. And that can include the replacement of the panel and any associated line work. But again, you can only use the electrical wiring rebates for that work if you're doing an electrical panel upgrade. We're going to go into more detail and provide different examples and cases of when or when not electrical wiring or panel upgrades would be eligible, because I know that this is something that can be a little bit of needs some clarification, and sometimes can feel it is based on different scenarios. So we highly encourage you to join session 3, where we're going to go into more detail about the changes with electrical upgrade projects and electrical wiring upgrade projects. So that is Thursday, August 20th at 3 p.m. So now we're going to focus on the changes with the quality installation documentation requirements. So I will say that there are quite some additional requirements for what photos we will need moving forward for projects. So I highly recommend reviewing this with your team and your crew, whoever is on site during these installs, and making sure that you review these new requirements and providing a checklist for them to prevent any delays in getting your quality install documentation approved moving forward. And we'll have, of course, a session on this later the month too, to go over more detail. But for the time being, definitely recommend you going through the program manual, and you'll also have a copy of these slides. So some of the new requirements include pre-install photos and also post-install geotagged photos. A lot of these photos include the electric panels, so just additional photos of them with the cover on and the cover off. So just kind of having multiple examples of the panel. Something that is new moving forward is any work that requires a permit, you will be responsible for uploading either PDF or a photo of that documentation. For wiring upgrades and panel upgrades, same thing. We'll need additional photos of the panel with the cover off, with the cover on. Again, related to any permits, we will want you to upload inspection certificates, and again, a PDF or a photo of the permit that was pulled for the work that was done. And that is something we will be more diligent about moving forward. So make sure to include this in your process as you're working with customers and getting all of the required documentation needed. So that way, when you're ready to submit your quality installation documentation or ready to get paid for the work that you've done, to make sure you have all this to prevent any delays moving forward. In addition to that, we have some additional guidance for geotagged photo requirements. So Program Manual 3.0 does allow participating contractors to capture photos on your smartphone with a third-party application. Right now, NYSERDA does not have a list of approved third-party applications. So it is the responsibility of participating contractors to verify that whichever application you're using meets our program requirements. In addition, when you are capturing and transferring photos, there's additional guidance in the program manual under section 8.1.1 from the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. So there are 2 links in there that you can have access to that give you additional instructions on how to capture photos and transfer them to make sure no geotagged coordinates or credentials get removed. In addition, if you are using an application or a tool to take geotagged photos, you have to ensure that you cannot modify the coordinates of the location after you take the photo. And on the photo, it must include the time and date the photo was taken and the coordinates. So for example, if you're using some sort of app to take photos, and once you're done taking the photo, if you're able to then change or edit the coordinates afterwards, that would not meet program requirements. And so again, NYSERDA does not have a list of approved third-party applications, but as we go through and approve your quality install documentation and review your geotagged photos, we may personally test whatever application you're using to confirm the coordinates cannot be modified. And if we notice that they can be, then those photos will be rejected. So we highly encourage you to test it yourself to ensure that cannot be changed. So failure to submit any geotagged photos or include photos that use an application where you can modify the coordinates could potentially result in termination from the program for not adhering to program requirements. In addition, some other program manual changes regarding the invoice. All permit fees must be applied onto the invoice. And moving forward, you will also need to acquire customer signature on your invoice as well. Another major change in the program manual is that we are removing the requirement for hauling away the existing appliance after the newer program appliance has been installed. So again, I recommend you joining session number 4, which will be Monday, August 24th at 11 a.m., where we'll go over this in more detail. And of course, if you have additional questions, encourage you to bring those there as well. So now we're going to take a little bit of an intermission. I'm going to look through the chat, do my best to answer any questions, and then we are going to pivot, and then we're going to go into the process of submitting applications on behalf of applicants. And I highly encourage you to stay along for that because there are some very specific program requirements to follow for that as well. So I'm just going to go on mute and just review any questions and answer what I can, and then we'll proceed in a few minutes. So one question I've seen come up, and this will also be addressed later on in the presentation, is when you are helping a customer with the application, the photo of the existing appliance, the geotagged photo, must be taken at the project site. So even if it's a geotagged photo, it has to be taken and uploaded at the project site. And Audrey will talk more about that later on.
This is Nicole Munns. I'm gonna jump in here to add some more context to this on the geotag photo front. I see that there's also a good amount of questions in here regarding geotag photos. There's a couple ways that everyone can take and submit the photos. So one, you can use your smartphone, just camera that is on the phone, take the photo as is, and then following the instructions that are in the program manual. They were provided by PNNL. not at the customer's site, you can transfer them to your computer and upload them along with the rest of your install documentation. So you don't have to submit them at the site. We understand that that's not always tenable. And so that's one option. And also, if you are not, going to download a third-party app, understood. So that's one. Again, you use the camera on your smartphone, you follow the instructions. They're linked in the program manual. They're provided from PNNL. They're also linked in MyEnergy after you've selected the scope, you start uploading your documentation. You've got your two PDFs there, one transferring geotag photos, one capturing geotag photos. They give you those instructions, like screenshots per the different software in your phone. So that's one option. Your other option, for those of you that do use a third-party app, you can use that app at the customer's phone. You are taking that photo. It has the long time the photo was taken as a kind of separate text box, if you will, stamped on the photo, non-editable, program requirement. And then same thing when you are not at the customer's site, you can upload that photo. You don't need to follow the same P&L guidance for transferring that photo because it was taken in a different way. It wasn't just taken on your smartphone camera. You use that third-party app to do so. If you choose in that, using that third-party app to go straight and upload those photos, that's fine as well. But you do have those options there. Thanks, Elizabeth. I just wanted to add some additional information there.
Yes, thank you for stepping in and providing that clarity.
Following up on the geotagging, I see a question from Paige here regarding no service at some customers' homes. Yes, you can just use the camera app on your smartphone to take the photos, and then when you are at your place of business or wherever you upload your quality install documentation, then you could follow the PNNL guidance as linked in our program manual and in MyEnergy to transfer the geotag photos. Before you capture the photos, if you were following that guidance, please review those steps prior to ensure that all the settings within your camera app have been set up, so everything is done and done once.
Great. Thanks for stepping in, Nicole. So what we're going to do is review some of these questions as well and do our best to respond to what we can in the chat. And then we'll have time at the end to go over additional questions as well. So I'll do that once I hand it over to Audrey for the next portion of our presentation, which is the proper way to help an applicant and submitting an application on their behalf. So we just have some submission reminders that we want to go over with you. So as a participating contractor, you are prohibited from creating individual applicant accounts in the MyEnergy portal. So as a participating contractor, you should have your own login credentials that our implementation contractor should have created for you on your behalf. And so if you're assisting an applicant, you must log into your account and then follow the process for submitting the application. If it has been discovered and we found out that a specific application that appears as a applicant account but has actually been submitted by a participating contractor, there is potential to be terminated from the program. And in addition to that, participating contractors are prohibited from signing the attestation. So this must be completed by the applicant as well. And so we bring this up because we have noticed this from some of our partners. We are confirming and reviewing applications. And if we notice anything that doesn't look up to par, we are reaching out to applicants to confirm how applications are being submitted. So we just want to ensure that participating contractors are just following the program requirements. And so we want to take the opportunity to go over the step-by-step process to make sure that we are on the same page on how these need to be submitted. So now I'm going to hand it off to Audrey, who's going to go step by step of the process through MyEnergy.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, I'm Audrey Spilik. I'll be reviewing how to submit an application through the MyEnergy portal on our website. So please continue to follow along and continue to ask questions in the chat. If your question gets addressed along the way, of course, we'll make sure to know. But ultimately, please feel free to continue to ask your questions and we will address them as we're able. So you'll navigate to the MyEnergy website and the login page. You can either click on Start My Journey towards the middle or login/register in the top right-hand corner. Whenever you click on login or register or start my journey, you can go to the next slide, please. It will take you to the page to enter your MyEnergy portal username and password, and then you can click login. I just want to use this time to make sure to say, please do not register. It will create a new resident account. What you need to do is enter your login credentials, which should be the email address that you provided to our team, .nycerta. And if you're ever confused about what your login credentials might be, you can certainly contact our team and we can clarify that for you if you need help with logging in. So next slide, please. Once you're logged into the MyEnergy portal with your contractor credentials, you'll notice that the screen should look similar to what you see on the page. You'll initiate an application submission by either clicking the yellow Apply Now button or apply at the top left-hand corner of the navigation bar at the top. I just want to use this time to mention a brief disclaimer to please avoid refreshing the pages as you're navigating through the application. Refreshing might cause some tech issues with the experience. It doesn't like us to use the back arrows or refreshing the page. So just use the buttons at the top of the navigation page for the application or the bottom where it says previous or next. And we'll review that in the next few slides as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so once you get started, you'll see the page where you're being asked to confirm if the applicant is a property owner or a renter. So if someone owns the home, of course, they're the property owner. If they're a renter, they're a tenant. That means that they're applying, they're going to receive their landlord permission to apply. And if you're submitting on behalf of someone, of course, the contractor, you have to certify and attest that you have received consent from the applicant to submit the application on their behalf. So once you click on that checkbox, that's what you're certifying. I just want to use this time to share some reminders. Again, please, please, please make sure the applicant is the one completing and signing the attestation. You as the contractor should not ever be signing this on behalf of an applicant. And again, you're prohibited from creating any accounts within the MyEnergy portal and signing on behalf of these applicants to submit these qualified electrification project applications. We need to make sure that the applicant is the customer that you're supporting, and they need to be the one signing the application. Next slide, please. Okay, on the next page, what we'll review, of course, is for the assistance information. Essentially, this determines how you will proceed through the application process. So you'll just need to answer a couple questions here and clarify if any household members have received an award letter for public assistance in the last 12 months. So if you click no, then of course you won't be asked additional information. If you click yes, there will be a drop-down menu that specifies what type of public assistance was offered, whether it's HEAP or SNAP or SSI. You'll just kind of clarify all of those options to specify what type of support was received. And we do not offer any referral codes at this time for the appliance upgrade program. So this answer would always be no. You have not received any referrals for AUP. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we'll have to enter the applicant project address. This is very important because this is what we use to verify the application record and identify the project site address to determine eligibility. So whenever you start entering in the address in the top bar, you'll notice that it will start kind of loading the potential address that it might have. And then you can select that from that drop-down menu that's automatically loading that information to select the project site address. Okay, please enter the applicant's project address as it's shown on the utility bill. And then you'll just need to clarify the building type and the number of units. So the building type could range between single family to 5+ units. Please make sure to specify the type of units, what we're looking at for the building type, and the number of units that are specified if it is a multifamily situation. All right, next slide, please. Then we'll clarify the apartment or unit number. Again, we want to match what's on the utility bill. So if they're in apartment A, we want to make sure to do that as opposed to calling it lower or unit 1, right? We want to make sure we follow what is said on the utility bill. And then we need to clarify the number of bedrooms and the number of people in the household. So just kind of clarifying, again, this is based on the unit that is being applied for, not in total all of the units that are being considered. So the household includes everyone that's living within the dwelling unit. Any roomers and boarders who rent a room within that space are excluded from the household count. We're not asking if they live there or for information for them if they're just a renter. But full-time students who could be claimed as a dependent on someone's tax return are excluded from that household count as well for a rental unit. If you're ever unsure, of course, you can certainly contact us and we can clarify who you should include or who you shouldn't include, but ultimately it's whoever is living in the house, right? Whoever is a part of that household. Next slide, please. Okay, the next page, this is a pre-eligibility question. This is fairly important as a contractor. This will determine the type of support that you're offering for your applicant, and also kind of determine the next steps for the application itself and what you're going to do as a contractor. So whenever you're helping someone with the application, what we do here is we select the household's gross income range from the drop-down menu. You'll see there are options listed A through C. These calculations will include all of the income sources. So that could range, of course, from disability, workers' compensation, unemployment, annuities, veterans benefits, tax forms, et cetera, right? For everyone in the household. Again, back to what we were saying about the household members. You'll select options A through C. One thing to understand about options A through C and how to look at this from a contractor's perspective as someone helping to know how to answer these questions. Applicants with a gross income above the limits, meaning you selected option C, they will not qualify for the appliance upgrade program. So they'll be redirected to the Comfort Home program instead. Options A and B would confirm which type of coupon they might be able to receive if approved. And again, this is just a pre-eligibility question. This does not determine officially what they will receive. But this just kind of clarifies the next steps and what you can explain to your customer. So it's very important as a contractor to understand this pre-eligibility screening page, what we're asking for and what is your job as the contractor to explain to your customer. Next, please. Okay, so when you submit the application, of course, we want to make sure to always select appliance when you're applying for the appliance upgrade program. If you select whole home upgrade, which would be the other option in the drop-down menu, what this will do is create an Empower Plus application, which is a completely different program. We want to make sure we're only putting appliance here whenever we're helping for the appliance upgrade program. Next slide, please. Okay, so the eligibility details that we referenced a moment ago when you select options A or B, this is essentially what you'll see on the next screen to determine the eligibility details. So for example, if the applicant selected option A, they would fall within that low to medium income range, and then they would qualify for that 100% off coupon. And these are the details that we want you to review with your customer to confirm they understand what they may be eligible for at their project address. Okay, if they select option B, then they'll qualify for the 50% and so on. And it's your job as the contractor to explain what that 50% means and clarify they understand their obligation to cover the rest of what's not covered by the program. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll review the appliance information here and specify the existing dryer fuel type, if applicable, meaning if they don't have a dryer, please make sure to notate that accordingly on this section of the application. And then we'll need to select their desired participating retailer. So who do they want to purchase the dryer from? That's something we want to know here. So just make sure to select from the drop-down menu. You'll see the options that are available based on, where they're located and what populates within this menu. And you'll select the retailer that they would like to work with. If you're ever uncertain of who they may want to work with, you can always click Save for later and come back to it if you want to review the list of participating retailers with your customer first. So that way they can make sure they're making that educated decision about who they want to select as their retailer in advance. If anyone changes their mind, of course, you can always submit a request later on. But it is preferred to go ahead and have these conversations with your applicant so that way we can know how to help them moving forward. And of course, since the contractor is helping submit the application, just go ahead and select contractor as opposed to self-install. Really important here for the clothes dryer, just to mention a brief disclaimer, whenever we're talking about the fuel types, if it's gas or propane that you're selecting, please confirm whether you're qualified to disconnect and cap that gas line, or if you will need to work with a licensed plumber who can perform that work. So of course, as we mentioned before, the licensing requirements may vary based on the applicant's project address, but we just don't want to get that mixed up. Make sure you can clarify for your customer what type of support you will be offering and clarify how you'll be helping them with this process ultimately. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll need to confirm who is helping fill out this application. So this information should populate based on what's already loaded into your portal. So you should see the first and last name, the contractor account, clarify your primary language, your contact email, and your phone number. If there are no changes here, of course, you can just click next. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we need to clarify also the customer's contact information here. So if they do not have an email address, I just want to make sure it's clear Do not create an email address here. Don't try to generate a new email for the applicant. Just go ahead and select the box that said the applicant does not have an email address. Because this email address is used to speak with the customer or have communications with them. If they don't have one, we can communicate with you and clarify next steps with your customer that you would be able to clarify what to do next with that applicant. Next slide, please. Okay, then of course we'll need to verify the mailing address for the applicant. You'll notice on the page it'll say the address for the application that's being submitted currently. If the project address is their mailing address, you'll just select next and proceed forward. However, if you need to make any changes, you'll select the box accordingly to enter a new mailing address. Next slide, please. Okay, if you select that you need to enter a new mailing address, then you'll notice new boxes that are populated to clarify where this person receives their mail. It's really important to clarify that we need to know this information because this is the address that's used for any application related mail or communications that may come directly from NYSERDA to the customer. So if they do not get mail at their project site address, please make sure to update with their mailing address. If it's a PO box, we want to make sure to clarify it is a PO box so that way they can get their mail accordingly and we can communicate with them as we need to. Next slide, please. Okay, so if the applicant is a renter, you'll notice another section that asks for property owner information. Very important here, we need to make sure that we have the property owner's first and last name, their phone number, and their email address. If they don't have an email address, same concept as what we mentioned before, go ahead and select that box that says they do not have an email. Or if they have a PO box, we want to make sure to clarify that they receive mail at a PO box. So just very important reminder here, any renters that submit applications, they will need permission from their property or building owner, and they will receive that permission through the building owner certification that is sent from NYSERDA to the property owner or building owner. This document is also available for download on the Appliance Upgrade Program webpage on our NYSERDA webpage. We can drop a link for you to access that if you wanted to prepare in advance for your tenant, or sorry, for the tenant to work with their landlord and receive that signature. You as the contractor could submit this signed document with the signed application. That could kind of speed along the review process. If we receive the signed building owner certification connected to that property owner or building owner, we can certainly review accordingly based on what was submitted with the application. But just as a reminder, of course, the building owner, property manager has to be the one signing it. They have to agree to the understanding that their renter is applying for this project site for this dryer, and then coordinate accordingly to sign that application. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll select the electric utility provider, which of course can vary by the project address. So whenever you are on this page, whenever you see the drop-down menu, it will populate based on where the service area is. And if you don't see the provider listed, of course, please select not listed from that drop-down menu. And then you'll be asked to enter information into the alternate fields to specify who the utility provider is and what the account number is for that information. Additionally, we'll review the heating utility. We need to clarify the primary heating fuel type, again, very important based on if it's gas, propane, etc. If it is natural gas that's selected, then we need to specify the natural gas supplier because it kind of ties back to, again, the gas capping and confirming next steps to proceed with the project. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll need to verify the information here if applicable. So if you received any help from a regional clean energy hub representative, this is where you would select that option from the drop-down menu to specify that support was received. Ultimately, it just kind of clarifies, who is helping out, what can we do to continue to support the effort and proceed forward, essentially. All right, if you didn't receive help, please just go ahead and leave blank. Next slide. Okay, so in the beginning, you might recall where I mentioned the question in regards to if there was any public assistance received or not. So I just want to clarify that in the beginning of the application, if you answered no to receiving public assistance, that means that the applicant would submit standard income to be reviewed to determine eligibility. So we'll request more information since they don't receive public assistance. We'll need to confirm their eligibility based on their sources of income. So what we'll need to do on this page is confirm that the number of the household members matches what was entered on the applicant project information screen at the beginning of the application. If this information differs, of course, we can add or delete as needed to kind of specify and clarify. But if you have to go backwards, as we talked about for navigation, you can see the little check marks at the top of the screen. If you left click one of the check marks, it'll help you go backwards to the space that you needed to correct something. And as I talked about before, we don't necessarily like refreshing. So please just make sure to click the next arrow each page to proceed forward until you get to the next page you're trying to get to, if that made sense. Make sure you're kind of navigating based on the navigation pane accordingly to correct the information that you need to. So here in this example, of course, we're specifying that we have 2 household members. We'll just need to answer those questions and provide clarity about, the household members that are applying. So we have to indicate whether each household member is 18 or over. And for any household member that's 18 or over, we also need to clarify if they are an income earner, we need to say yes. Or if they're a full-time student, of course, yes or no, and provide their first and last names. Okay, if they are an income earner, they will be asked to provide additional information, which we'll review on the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so of course, as that example we mentioned, they said yes to being an income earner. So we're going to ask how they earn their income and what that gross income is for the source of income they're referencing. We'll talk about the frequency of the reported gross income, whether that is weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or yearly, and then just verify which type of method you'll be using to share the proof of this income. So you can certainly add that information. You'll use the drop-down menu to populate what is coming in and where it's supposed to go, and clarify how we will be determining the type of income that has been submitted. Very important to note here, when it comes to any household members that are under the age of 18, we are not asked to provide any additional information. That is why the first question asked is in relation to the age. So any children within the home, we don't need to know about that information. That can remain anonymous. We just need to know if it's a child within the home. They're not asked to provide any income or even for their name for that matter to clarify who's there, for that safety. Whenever you enter this information, of course, as mentioned, if you need to add or delete something, please make sure to do so. And if you have additional sources of income, you can see the option to add. Let's say there's a household member that's the sole income earner for the home. Maybe they have 3 jobs and they want to submit for all 3 jobs as opposed to submitting a tax return. That's okay. You can click add all 3 times to notify us of all 3 of those jobs they have to specify the sources of income accordingly. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so essentially it'll give you this thumbs up saying, hey, everything looks great, making sure it's here. This is a good green flag to say you didn't run into any technical issues. I will say you might run into a technical issue if you do see any type of error mentioned on this page. Give us a call, send us an email, let us know what happened so we can review and verify what exactly occurred within this process. But essentially, if you see this page, this is what we want to see. It means thumbs up, we're good to go. We can click next to proceed forward to the next step of the application. Next slide. Okay, so whenever you click next, essentially it'll load the application you just filled out, and you really need to pay attention to what was entered here, because this is the information that our team at NYSERDA will be reviewing to determine eligibility. So everything that was entered here, we want to make sure it matches accordingly to the applicant to make sure that we can review the eligibility accordingly. If you notice anything that needs to be changed, remember what we talked about before. We don't like to just click the back arrow at the top of the web page. We need to click those check marks to go back to the step, or select the previous button down at the bottom right hand corner to move backwards. So as tempting as it is to use your web page and click that back arrow, please don't. Go ahead and use the previous setting or those check marks at the top of the navigation page, so that way we can determine where you need to make those edits and changes. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're at the portion we're going to be uploading those required documents before we can continue with the rest of the application. So we want to make sure that we review the documents carefully, make sure that we have all the information that we need to report their income properly. Just wanted to share, you can certainly cover up that sensitive information. Let's say it's a tax return. We don't need to know the social security number and that type of information. You can certainly go ahead and cover that with your scan or whatever you're submitting to us, and submit that documentation accordingly. What we'll need is the geotag photo as we referenced, which I'll kind of briefly touch on how we would submit that photo. The income documentation, you'll notice, populates based on what you mentioned you would be submitting. So if you selected that someone received public assistance, as I mentioned before, what it'll ask for is all of the award letters that you mentioned connected to the applicant. If someone receives HEAP, SNAP, SSI, and 3 different types, full transparency, we just need one of those award letters. If you can submit a HEAP award letter or a SNAP award letter, we'll take that. Maybe they don't have the SSI award letter on hand, that's okay. You can just upload the HEAP or SNAP award letters in those spaces. We'll review it accordingly. The building owner certification, as mentioned, NYSERDA will contact the building owner or property manager directly to send them this document to request a signature. However, if you happen to download in advance and you are also working with the landlord while you're there with your customer, they can certainly have signed this. You can take a picture and upload accordingly too. We can receive that during the application process if you happen to have it, but there's not a requirement to have it when you submit the application. What we do require, of course, would be the utility bills, where we would need the electric bill and the gas or utility bill to confirm, who they're connected to and what's going on. And we'll want to make sure that that account number and information is visible, and clarify, the usage and specify everything that's here. When in doubt of knowing, should I just send the first page or should I send all the pages? Just send all the pages, right? Just give us everything. That way we can review accordingly and have what we need. Less back and forth. So that way we know that we have what we have to review the application. In relation to the geotag photo support, whenever you click on the upload photo, that's where we mentioned you would be at the project site address at the applicant's home to submit that geotag photo. What it'll do is it'll reroute you to a web page to upload that geotag photo from within their home, and it will link to their house if you submit directly from the home. So back to Elizabeth's suggestion that she mentioned earlier in the training session, is we recommend being at the applicant's home whenever you're providing assistance with submitting this application. So that way you can submit more easily and more seamlessly from the home directly. Whenever you upload all these documents, you'll notice that it'll show an existing file name and the status will say submitted. Once you've submitted that information, then you can select next accordingly. If you know that you have documents that you're unsure if we may or may not need them, you can go ahead and add additional documents, whether that falls under utility bills, income verification, or just other documents because you're uncertain of what we may need. It's okay to go ahead and send that over to us. We can keep that on their file accordingly. All right, next slide, please. Okay, and when it comes to the geotagging photo support, as we mentioned again, please make sure that you're at the applicant's project site address when providing that geotagged photo or following the directives that were previously communicated by Nicole and Elizabeth. Whenever you are uploading from the web page, very important here, you'll want to make sure that the pop-up blockers are turned off and that you also allow location access when you're prompted by that browser. Good practice before you visit these homes, of course, too, would be to make sure that you have permission set to allow location sharing on your photos. So that way you make sure those photos that you have are tagged to the location of your applicant. If you do not have those locations turned on, it will result in you having to go back to make sure that that's turned on then. So we're just trying to save you some time to make sure you have those resources ready whenever you're providing that support. All right, next slide, please. Okay. Yes, so the steps that I mentioned, whenever you click on that web browser, essentially what we'll do is whenever you click upload photo, a new tab will open to that web page we talked about for photo submission. And again, please make sure to give the location sharing permissions when prompted to do so. If you try to proceed without it, it'll kind of just make you go backwards again. Next slide. Okay, so it's important to know that any device with location sharing capabilities can be used. So let's say you go to an applicant's house with a tablet or an iPad or a laptop to submit. That's okay, that's perfectly acceptable. As long as you see the geotag coordinates load accordingly. The screenshot that you see on the page, for example, would be from a computer where you would see the geotag coordinates loading on that page on the right-hand side. Very important here, if you're uploading from that device, when you choose a file you can upload, but just make sure that that latitude and longitude coordinate, those numbers are present prior to selecting choose file. If you select choose file before that's shown, then it might not connect properly to the project site address for the applicant. Whenever you upload that photo, of course, just go ahead and click submit, and then it'll populate accordingly within the field. As you can see for some of the instructions on the screen, gives you a brief reminder about how to submit this information. Take the clear photo, make sure you're at the house, and click submit accordingly. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are just some screenshots of what it might look like if you're using an Apple device, and just a brief touch on what you should do whenever you're on this page. You'll see the web pop up and ask, if we can use your current location. Please make sure to select allow. And then when you select choose file, you'll be given a couple of different options here to select a photo that you've already taken, take a photo or video, or choose a file. It's recommended to take a photo there, so that way you confirm that the location is flagged specifically to the applicant's home, because you're submitting this photo from their home address. All right, next slide. And similarly, we review how to submit an application from an Android device, which it looks very similar. Again, we just want to make sure that we allow at this time, or allow while visiting the site, choose the file, and of course, choose camera to take a photo, which is the recommended option, as opposed to choosing a photo from the gallery. If you choose from a gallery, it might not flag properly. Next slide, please. Once you successfully submit that photo, you'll receive this green message that gives you that thumbs up that says, hey, good job, you submitted it successfully. And then essentially you're able to proceed forward. Please refrain from saving for later on the document upload portion page of the application, because you might run into some technical issues. Just talking about how to avoid those. Just select previous and then save on that previous step if you don't have all of those documents ready to help someone, because we want to do our best to avoid those tech issues when possible. All right, just one thing to note, that selecting previous won't remove the geotag photo you already submitted. Once you upload it one time, it's already there. If you need to confirm that it's there, you can certainly contact our team and we can review the application accordingly for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so then we get to the fun part where you have to you have to send the application for your customer signature, right? It means we're ready, we're able to download this and proceed forward. So whenever we select next, essentially what will happen is you'll receive instructions for downloading the application PDF to send to the applicant to request a signature. As a reminder, we need the applicant's signature. You cannot sign that on behalf of your applicant. They need to be the one to sign it. Next slide, please. Okay, so of course, the page reloads, lets you know you did a good job, provides you with instructions for how you access that and the My Project section of the MyEnergy page to be able to download that application to request a signature from your applicant at that time. Next slide. So whenever you're on the home page, of course, we mentioned when you select My Project, what you'll see is all that information. You'll kind of scroll down a little bit and see all of the corresponding projects. You'll just need to select the correct one for what you just submitted for that applicant to help them proceed forward with their application. All right, next slide, please. Whenever you left click that application, you'll see the project details page and the option to download the completed application to request a signature. So once you download that completed application, of course, you can receive a signature, and we can accept a physical wet signature or an approved electronic signature with the confirmation of receipt connected to that customer with a date and time stamp to confirm what application was used to sign that application electronically. Once you receive that signature, of course, then you would need to upload files. I just want to make sure everyone understands we cannot accept an electronic signature without verification through a verified method of approval. Meaning, if you happen to download this on your iPad and you just happen to use an electronic pen and they just happen to sign it, we can't take it. If it's an electronic signature, it has to be through a verified method, through one of those applications for a DocuSign method to confirm that we do have the approval and the receipt from that customer to verify they signed the application. Next slide, please. Okay. I will pass the floor back to Elizabeth. If anyone has any questions, I will mention, I know we do see some questions in the chat. Any questions we're not able to answer during this presentation, of course, we will send a follow-up email with the questions and answers following this discussion. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much, Audrey, for going through that process. So now with the last few minutes of our time together, we're going to go through some of the questions that we see here. So one that popped up that I noticed is asking about if we will still be funding gas to electric conversions. I know that there was some new guidance provided by the Department of Energy. So at this time, there's going to be no change to the appliance upgrade program through NYSERDA. We are still going to be approving those projects, so nothing will change there at this moment. If anything does change, we will let you know. In addition to that, I know there have been some questions regarding the process for this consultation. So we are not expecting you to go back to the house twice. If you are already there and assisting the applicant with their application and also reviewing, the potential scope of work, just ensure that the applicant has that information so that they can then present it to NYSERDA to get their installation coupon approved. We're not expecting you to have to go to the home twice. So in addition to that, I'm going to continue looking through some of the questions that we have here. Anything we can answer, we'll do our best to send out an email. I also see that there are some specific project-related questions. So after this presentation, we will look through and we will get back to all of you regarding your specific projects. Just give us a moment to continue looking through the chat and we'll answer some questions before we conclude.
With regards to geotagging, I'd like to revisit that. There are a few other questions in here. So the process that Audrey went through regarding the application is specific to the application. So, and I believe there's a question here as well. The application, the existing appliance photo that's submitted in the application is only for that process. And then the process that Elizabeth discussed earlier, and I added some detail, is for the quality install documentation. So for the first process, if you are assisting or submitting an application on behalf of your customer, in order to take and submit that photo per program requirements, you need to be at the applicant's home, so where the project will be occurring, and you need to follow the steps as outlined in the application. So from your smartphone, tablet, you need to have those location services on when it prompts you in your browser, and you'll take the photo, and in that same step, you'll be uploading it to the application. Separately, outside of the application, when you are uploading quality install documentation, you have a couple options when it comes to the submission of geotag photos. So you have one, the submission through, or the capturing and transferring just through your smartphone. You can just take it with that camera and then following the PNNL guidance that we discussed. And then two, you can take it through a third-party app. Both of those processes, you can submit those off-site. You do not need to submit the quality install documentation on-site. So again, and I know we are just at time for the application process on behalf of a customer, you need to take and submit the photo on site in the application. For quality install documentation, you can take and submit the photo. You take the photo on site, you can submit the photo off site following the guidance in the program manual. It's also available in MyEnergy. And I will turn it back to you, Elizabeth, to close this out.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. And thank you to our participating contractors who joined the webinar today. Again, there are 3 additional sessions as well that'll go into more detail. We hope to further address some of the questions. We also will look through afterwards and reach out to you, especially those who had specific questions regarding projects. So you can expect an email from the IRA retail inbox. And we will also send out the recording of this presentation as well, so you can share it amongst your other staff members. Thank you again for joining and participating in the Appliance Upgrade Program, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for joining.